This episode is brought to you by Farm Bureau Financial Services, Zach Miller Agency. If you're looking for an insurance agent with a personal touch, someone willing to have the real conversations about what's important to you, assistance with submitting claims, and offering quality coverage options, Farm Bureau Financial Services, Zach Miller Agency may be the place for you. Whether you need home, auto, farm, commercial, life, or health insurance, we're here for you. Check us out at agentzachmiller.com. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agriculture Insurance Company.
My next guest is your current District 2 Madison County Commissioner and is also running for re-election. Eric, thanks for making time to be here today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm Zach Miller with my co-host Vance Kole.
Thanks for coming on.
You bet.
And we are touching base with Eric Stinson today. Let's get a little bit of background on you. Where are you originally from?
Born and raised here in Norfolk. Graduated from Norfolk Catholic a long time ago. Spent 20 years in the insurance business working for Emeritus.
Okay.
In Norfolk. When I was 42, I decided to go back to school and became a mortician.
Really?
Yeah, so I did that for 17 years and retired from that, I guess 5 years ago this month, and worked part-time for a nonprofit called Northeast Nebraska Behavioral Health Network for about a year and a half, and then during that time also ran for my first term as county commissioner. The part-time job with Northeast Nebraska Behavioral Health ended. It was a grant-funded program, and the current administration didn't refund the grants.
There you go.
So I've been just completing my first term as county commissioner and running for re-election, as you stated, and running unopposed. So
yeah, we saw that too. What prompted the decision from the insurance to the mortician? That's kind of a crazy jump, isn't it?
Well, and that's a question I get all the time, and
the clients yelled at you less?
yeah, much. And it was kind of what would possess you to want to become a mortician, I guess. When I was in the insurance business, I delivered a lot of death claim checks. I sold life and health insurance mostly. And I enjoyed helping people, and this was an obvious position I felt where I could help people, and it was very gratifying. And it was also trying at times. Living here my whole life, knew an awful lot of people, and that made it hard at times. So,
and dealing with death claims and then moving right into that, you've dealt with a lot of death and sadness, haven't you?
Yeah. So,
Interesting. Kind of moving into the county commissioner side, have you previously ran or served on any other boards, committees, or public office?
I was on the Norfolk Catholic School Board for 2 terms, but other than that, nothing public.
Okay. So what prompted you to run for office the first time and then again now for re-election?
Okay. Initially, I knew my predecessor wasn't going to run again. I visited with him. I had considered running, and I was approached by a couple different individuals and asked if I would be interested in running. And at the time, I was just working part-time, so I felt I had the time to dedicate to it. My dad's, excuse me, my dad served on the Norfolk City Council for 10 years, so I kind of had an understanding of public service and the commitment that it takes. And so I decided that I would run, and I ran opposed in the primary, and then I ran against an individual that actually moved out of state for the general election, but didn't remove his name from the ballot. So, and deciding to run again, I enjoy what I do. I think I do a good job at it. I respond to everybody. I tell them, I'll give you an answer. It just may not be the answer you want. and
That's sometimes what you got to do, though.
Well, and we know you can't please everybody all the time. But if it's something that we can deal with, we try and deal with it.
Makes sense. What are some highlights about Madison County and District 2 that stand out to you?
Well, District 2, my road district basically, which is District 2, consists from 121 at Battle Creek over to the Stanton County line, from County Road 834, which is a mile north of Enola, to the Pierce County line. So what stands out is a large part of that area is Norfolk, so we don't have to deal with that itself. But in Madison County, we've got approximately 155 miles of hard surface roads, and probably 100 miles of that.
I was gonna say a lot of it's in that district.
In my district. So,
Yeah.
So my district deals with much more hard surface, which of course is much more expensive to maintain, resurface. Also in turn, in the winter, we plow a lot more roads on small snowfalls than you would with just gravel.
Right. Makes sense. How do you kind of help maybe influence some decisions on other districts, or do you guys kind of work together on that, or is it mostly just you guys stick to your district?
Well, basically with phone calls, concerns, we try and stick to our district. But as far as finance, equipment, those type of things, we all work together on that. We understand there's only so many dollars throughout the county. And I think the three commissioners, not to speak for the other two, but feel we represent everybody in the county, not just the people in our district.
Correct. What do you feel that Madison County could improve on?
Honestly, I think we right now do a tremendous job. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would tell you we do a terrible job of maintaining our roads, that we never blade them. They're rough all the time. Some of that is true. Some of that is, if you live in the country, that comes with living in the country. Weather is a big factor on, blading our roads right now. It's like blading concrete.
Yeah.
And we can try and cut the washboard out of it, and a day later it's back. And the biggest issue, a lot of our roads carry a lot of traffic, and speed creates to that issue, acceleration, deceleration. And, some roads we've considered even reducing the speed limit. Is it going to be honored? Probably not.
Right.
That's a good way to make friends.
Well, and a lot of people think, their road deserves more attention than somebody else's because they live on it, and I can appreciate that. I live in the city of Norfolk, and I understand my street's always not the best, but there's a lot of streets that have to be taken care of.
Right.
So
I feel like roads are a tough one for any level of government. You're not going to make everybody happy.
They are. We don't plow them quick enough. We don't salt them enough. We don't, blade them often enough.
Then they'll complain about over-salting, ruining the vehicles. And
And it's hard on the surface, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a blizzard in January, and my wife and I got stranded in Wisner for 2 days in a motel. And I was receiving phone calls there, when is my road going to be open? And I said, well, the Department of Roads can't get the highway open, so I have no idea when we're going to get your road open.
I remember
and I'm
that.
stuck in Wisner.
Right.
Well, then they were pretty understanding.
Like, I'm not even home.
Yeah.
That last year's winter storm was so crazy for everybody that it's like people forget that, like, it's not just completely easy to get. I know it sucks. It's what it is. Like, sometimes we got to slow down a little bit and just.
Well, and we've had some awful mild winters over the last several years.
We've been pretty lucky.
And like you said, people forget.
Yeah.
They forget what it's like to have freezing rain every week or snow and nowhere to put the snow.
Yeah.
And
Once that was the biggest problem last year, is we just ran out of places to go, even on the
push it.
farm.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know where to go with it.
Yeah, and we try and plow our hard surface roads and salt and gravel them if we get any kind of moisture, especially the ones that carry a lot of traffic, industrial highway, 37th by Lutheran High. Those we want to address.
Yeah.
We had guys plowing on Christmas Day, which I hate to make the guys go out and but they understand that it comes with the territory. So
It's kind of part of the job that you sign up for.
It is, yeah.
It's kind of the shitty
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
And back to your question, maybe on one thing Madison could improve on, and we've tried and we're trying more. So it's just getting tougher and tougher to hire people and good people. And again, we only have so many dollars, and pay becomes an issue,
Yep.
especially with law enforcement. As you've seen, law enforcement over the years has taken an unfair beating, in my opinion. So it's gotten tougher and tougher to hire individuals to work in it. But even in the road district and stuff, it's hard to hire people that want to work and want to stay.
And do quality work, right?
Yeah. So and our employees are required to have a CDL just because of the equipment they drive and the trucks and stuff. So we will work with them to get their CDL.
But you just have to carry it, or they have to be able to carry it and do it and pass everything and do all that stuff.
Yep.
We're gonna have something else.
You guys do the budget for every department inside the county, like the law enforcement, like the sheriff and stuff like that, or not?
They do their own budgets, but then ultimately they come to the commissioners.
You have to approve it and stuff.
And then we approve not only their budgets, but the budget as a whole.
Gotcha.
Which I think we've really worked hard on that. Our budget committee, which consists of our board chairman, Troy Euler, and then several other people, really work with each department or, the treasurer's office, the assessor's office, and try and have a zero growth in the budget itself other than salaries. And we obviously have to upgrade computers, that type of thing. We've been told we should not have any computers older than 5 years old, just for safety's sake. As far as
That is true.
as far as getting hacked, there's one county in northeast Nebraska that actually got hacked, held hostage, and it cost them over $1 million.
Jesus. On a
To get out of
ransomware
it. Correct. They tried everything and could not get out of it, and ended up having to pay $1 million to get out of it. So we stress, don't open emails that look funny. When it says, please do me this favor immediately, don't open it, don't click on it.
Yeah.
So
I think we go through phishing training about every 2 months, I think, through Farm Bureau. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And on the budget, for example, this year our budget went up 1%, which I think is tremendous to even be able to operate at a 1% growth, just based on our fuel costs, our personnel
inflationary costs alone,
our insurance costs.
I did look at. I just breezed through it real fast. Insurance costs seem to be some of the highest things that you guys, not highest, but when you're looking down the budget, there's a lot of money allocated to health insurance premiums and just insurance for I'm assuming the county itself.
Yeah. Our health insurance, we're in a pool through the Nebraska Association of County Officials, which obviously helps. I mean, you being insurance background, you understand the pool mindset. And then the county insurance actually is provided through NERMA, which is Nebraska Intergovernmental Risk Management Association. And I actually sit on the board of directors for that. It's an elected position. All the agencies and counties that are represented each have a vote. And, there's 11 of us on that board, but we insure 84 of the 93 counties, all their property, all their equipment, and all their workman's comp. So it's a big
Significant
deal.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a storm anywhere in Nebraska, we kind of cringe because it's probably going to affect one of our members. So,
that's kind of crazy.
And NERMA does a tremendous amount of training on safety, trying to minimize claims, whether it be equipment and workman's comp, those type of things. So.
Speaking of that, is there a lot of claims during the winter season when you are trying to plow roads and things like that?
Not a tremendous amount. Speaking for at least Madison County, most of our drivers, operators are pretty pretty conscientious, and I've been doing it for a while.
Good.
Occasionally we lose a mailbox here or there. And
Sometimes it's hard to see in the blowing snow.
well,
that'll happen.
and it's when you got that much snow, it's hard to not knock some of those over. We have equipment end up in the ditches, sometimes with a motor grader, you got the wing out and that you catch a chunk of big pile of frozen snow and it's just going to pull you right in.
Right.
Usually it doesn't damage the equipment. It's more of an ego
Right.
damage, and then you bring donuts.
Gotta call for help.
You bring donuts the next day because you have to call somebody to pull you out.
You got to hear about it for a while.
So everybody knows that you were in the ditch.
Right. Still talking on the budget. We've gone through and through the city budget and stuff like that with all the candidates we've had on. What is your decision-making process when allocating funds for a project or certain pieces of the budget?
Mine personally?
Personally, yeah.
Well, when we approve the budget for the year, we kind of allocate what we think we're going to need for equipment costs. We've been trying to upgrade our equipment as best we can, because if we don't, in past, some of our repair expenses for the year run $400,000 or $500,000, and you hate to put those kind of dollars into older equipment.
Right.
But the other side of the coin is equipment has gotten so expensive. To buy a brand new motor grader, you're looking at probably $440,000 out the door.
Wow.
My district just bought a used one, traded in, and with our trade, it was still $270,000. It's just that those kind of dollars take some getting used to.
Yeah.
When you're used to not dealing in those kind of dollars.
Right.
So we all have input on what we think we're going to need for equipment. We sit down and discuss what roads are going to need to be resurfaced as far as our hard surface roads. But there again, we're about $400,000 a mile to resurface a blacktop. And like First Street, we just paved for the crush plant, which was needed, obviously. But cement costs us about $1 million a mile.
Jesus.
So we don't pave a lot of roads.
Unless you have to, yeah.
Yeah, and as far as resurfacing, we've done a very good job the last several years of catching up. When there's a shortfall in the county budget, usually it comes out of the roads department. And so either equipment or resurfacing roads. There for a while, the county was doing about 4 or 5 miles a year, which you were just getting further and further behind.
Yep.
We've been doing about 9 or 10 miles a year, and actually we're, between the 3 districts, we're within a year or 2 of actually being caught up and can look at some other projects, providing things keep going the way they're going.
Yeah.
No disasters.
Yeah.
So you guys keep all of the equipment is split up per district?
Correct.
Okay. I kind of assumed it was just one big pool. I didn't know you.
Well, each district has their equipment, but each district can use another district's equipment also, providing it's not being used.
Gotcha.
And for example, the county has 1 bucket truck. Each district uses that to trim trees and stuff.
Yep.
And
It's kind of surprising.
yeah, it's
Just 1 bucket truck.
It's kind of a high dollar item that doesn't get a tremendous amount of use.
Okay.
That's kind of a winter project when you have downtime. Because
I suppose most of the bucket truck stuff needed would be done by an REA or the power. I mean, that's the most times you need it, or a little times over the road, or what?
Yeah. Safety issues with trees over the road and stuff. So, and I know like one of the districts just borrowed our bulldozer. That's an item that we don't use a tremendous amount of the time, and so they can use it when we're not, and vice versa. The county has one, what you would call a reclaimer, and it's a machine that grinds up asphalt. So if we wanted to take a road back to gravel, or let's say a road that's not going to get resurfaced anytime soon is getting really rough, we can take an inch or 2 off of that with this machine. Well, there's one for the county, and it's another item that's extremely expensive to replace or have more than one. So each district uses it as needed.
Gotcha.
Makes sense. Going back to the adding the road on First Street, there is $1 million a mile. Do you guys, when you guys are thinking about that, do you calculate the return on investment for taxes that you are from the place that you're providing that road for?
To an extent, and the other side, we determine if it would have been, if we'd had redone it in asphalt and widened it, the amount of traffic that it's going to carry, how often is it going to fail and need redone,
Right.
versus concrete.
I just always wondered how, I never really thought of it that way. You know, when you're talking that much money into a road to put it towards a business or something, how much is that going to bring back to the county, right?
Sure. And if you've been out by the crush plant out there, obviously it's a tremendous facility.
Yep.
That's going to generate some property tax,
Correct.
obviously,
Correct.
because it's going to be valued at, you know, I think the project when it was proposed was $365 million. Now it's not going to be valued at that,
Right.
but it's going to be valued much more than farm ground,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
So
Exactly. What qualities and values make you an effective leader and decision maker?
Well, I think I'm pretty level-headed. Like I said before, I listen to everybody. I'll give everybody an answer. At my point in my career, life, I'm not going to let anybody beat me up. You know,
I don't blame you.
I've seen too many things that, you know, if they want to have a civil conversation, I'll have a civil conversation with anybody. But if they want to scream and yell and swear at me, I end the conversation. I don't do business that way, and I don't expect them to. And I'm more than happy to meet with anybody. I'll come out to their place, you know, show me what your issue is, and we'll try and resolve it. And I'll be honest, there's some we just can't resolve, and whether that's good or bad, you know. And some projects that need to be done benefit one person and upset another.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I personally know about that.
And not to point, but but it needed done, and it
went that way my entire life. So I knew what we dealt with, and
it needed to be done, and it should have been done before. But we got it done, and I'm glad we did. And those that were upset, I think, realized that it was what needed to be done, and we tried to make it as
easy as possible,
and painless as possible for those that were negatively impacted.
I don't know what you're talking about, but we can leave it at that.
We'll talk about it sometime.
Okay. Sure.
You can ask the old man about it.
I'll ask him about it.
And I joke I didn't even get a Christmas card after we did that.
That's funny. How do you plan to, or already, and you kind of mentioned this already, but engaging with constituents? You say you go out to people's places, try to, you know, other than that, is there anything else that you try to do to stay engaged?
Not particularly. You know, we meet twice a month, every other week, I guess I should say, for our commissioner meetings. At some of them we have, you know, a few people. At others we have a lot of people. Just kind of depends on what's on the agenda. But that's, I guess I run into constituents all the time, whether I'm at Menards, Walmart, out to dinner, whatever. And then, you know, I'm more than happy to go to somebody's place and visit with them and discuss their concerns and issues.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the old man, your old man, we met you at the El Mezcal one night, and I think he was being a constituent at that night too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you were there that night.
I was there that night.
Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah.
And of course I went to school with his mother.
Well,
I'm older than her, but
Yeah.
she was behind me in school. So
How do you feel about running unopposed? We kind of talked about it before the podcast, but I kind of wanted to still reiterate that a little bit.
I guess I'm relieved. You know, campaigning, having only done it once previously, and when I did campaign, it was right in the middle of COVID, so it was kind of not only a new experience, but an altering experience from how I had thought I would need to campaign.
Right.
I tell people the 10 years my dad was on city council, he was appointed the first 2 and then ran twice. He never spent a penny. He never campaigned. He never did anything. I mean,
Right.
it was a different era.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember the last time he ran was in 1976, and he got 1,976 votes. And the person that ran against him, I believe, got 9.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so,
Wow.
So, but running unopposed, I guess I was hoping that would happen, but I was prepared for it not to. But honestly, it is somewhat of a relief. And I guess maybe it's a pat on the back to myself that maybe I am doing a good job, and
Yeah.
and nobody was upset. When I ran, I didn't have an issue. Too often we see people run because they got a burr under their saddle
Right. On a specific issue or something.
regarding whatever it is.
Something that burned them or something. That they wanna
Correct.
see changed.
I-
Which sometimes is a good thing. So, I mean, you never know new ideas and stuff like
yeah,
that.
it's not always bad. When I ran, I just thought I had something to offer. So, and it was a learning experience. I mean, I've lived in town my whole life, and a lot of what we do it takes care of stuff in the country. But I've driven 1,000,000 miles in the country, whether it be chasing pheasants or whatever. So,
And we always, I don't always like the unopposed thing, but you say nobody's ever said that where you're like, well, maybe I was doing a good enough job, or nobody's ever.
We kind of believe, at least on their podcast, that it's always nice to have that differing opinions. Then you
Sure.
can battle it out. But I get, like he said, I get exactly where you're coming from there, and it's probably a good thing. But it's also really nice sometimes to have multiple people. You can get the ideas out there.
Sure.
Because sometimes when they're not unopposed, like you coming on here unopposed, at least we're going to hear your views or something like that.
Otherwise,
in some cases you don't have to.
wouldn't- Exactly. And 4 years ago, I was opposed, but it was during COVID, so we had no forums, no candidate forums, nothing like that.
Yeah.
You know, there were articles on both of us in the newspaper, but in today's age,
You got to base it
there's
off
a
of
lot-
what somebody writes.
well, and there's a lot of people that don't get the paper anymore.
But
Yeah.
You know, and they don't view it online either. So
Well, at least you're avoiding all the attacking from everybody on all the other. You kind of get to avoid all that.
Sure. And in the campaign 4 years ago, neither one of us attacked either one. I mean, basically, we had signs out and the articles in the newspaper and some ads and stuff, and that was the extent of it. And just why would you vote for me, or why shouldn't you vote for him? You know,
Right.
wasn't really addressed.
Right. Kind of moving on a little bit, and you've kind of explained a little bit of this already, but for those who may not know, could you briefly explain your duties, maybe outside of roads and stuff, as commissioner?
Okay. Well, we deal with the budget. We deal with the courthouse itself. Each elected official runs their own office. So the commissioners are not in charge of the treasurer. We're not in charge of the assessor. When somebody's unhappy with the treasurer's office, they've got to deal with the treasurer. You know, we get calls on other offices, and all I can tell them is that's an elected official. You need to visit with them. Outside of roads, we do the budgeting. We do zoning for the county. Some counties don't have zoning regulations. Ours does. We've got a zoning office. We also have a veteran service office, which is located in Norfolk. So we oversee that. We all serve on several different boards. For example, I'm on the Elkhorn-Logan Valley Department of Health Board. I serve on that board. I serve on the Area Agency on Aging Board. The three of us serve on the Railroad Safety Board. I serve on the Solid Waste Coalition, which deals with the transfer station and the dump down by Clarkson. So we've got numerous duties other than taking care of roads and going to a meeting every other week. So we have lots
So
of
you go to a
meetings.
lot more meetings.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, so not even just those.
Yeah.
A lot more meetings than just that. So
Yeah.
Good thing you're you fully retired now, you said?
I tell people I'm unemployed, not retired.
There you go.
There's a
There
difference.
you go. Huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah, that's
But I guess you could say, yeah, I'm retired. So
well, not from all you just said. I guess you're not. I shouldn't have said it that way. You're probably doing more now than you did when you were working.
well, there are some weeks it's really busy, and other weeks it's not quite so bad. But,
Yeah, that's good.
last week, had a commissioners meeting on Tuesday. Had to be in Kearney Wednesday for a board of directors meeting for NERMA, and then had a NERMA conference Thursday and Friday, and got home early Friday evening. So it was a busy week.
Busy guy. Busy
Yeah.
guy. So you kind of just answered my question. If you had any control over assessments of homes, so you don't.
Actually, the county, I am the chairman of the Board of Equalization, which the 3 commissioners serve on the Board of Equalization. And so valuations are set by the assessor's office. In the event an individual wants to protest their valuation, whether it be on their ag land or their home or their commercial property, then they can file a request, and there's a time frame to do that. I believe it's in June that you can file a protest, and then you'll be heard before the Board of Equalization. So we had 156 protests this year in Madison County, which
Seems super low.
it was lower than the previous year. I think we had 198. Most of them are residential protests. We get a few ag land, but a lot of the ag land is structures that they don't have that the county still has listed, which is very easy to,
Take off.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I have 5 bins listed and I only have 3. Okay, well, that's easy enough. You drive out and go, yeah, you only got 3. So, but in the protest process, I try and explain to everybody that the legislature states that residential valuations have to be 93 to 100% of saleable value. So when your neighbor sells their house for $400,000, it doesn't do anybody in the neighborhood any good.
Yeah.
That's, we all want our investment to increase, but if we're never going to sell our house, that's, and they have increased tremendously in the last several years, but we all know what home prices have done. It's just,
Right.
It's just crazy.
Where can the blame be put?
Supply and demand, I guess. If you got people willing to pay it, you sure can't blame the seller.
So we're blaming the realtors. That's what you're saying.
Oh no,
Okay.
I'm just always going to blame the government at all times. I'm always blaming the government. That's my go-to.
and ag land has to be valued at 75%.
Yeah.
So when a guy down the road sells a farm for $13,000 an acre, and yours is currently valued at $4,000 an acre, you can be pretty sure you're going to get a hit.
Yeah. So you probably, there's really no other way you can address as a commissioner any property tax concerns, right? Besides seeing the assessment.
Yeah,
What's the word?
valuations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And out of those protests, we probably adjust, just off the top of my head, maybe 30%.
But how much are you adjusting? Probably not a whole lot, right?
Well,
Like
some
money, like dollar wise.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. We had a gal, this wasn't last year, it was the year before. Her home was valued at, assessed at $196,000. Well, she had just bought it for $155,000. She came in and showed us she had just bought it for $155,000. We reduced it to purchase price because,
Gotcha.
and so, $40,000 on that home.
Significant.
Yeah. And we have some people come in and protest, and they realize their protesting is going to save them $5, $6, $10, but they they want to do it.
I mean, it's
fine.
$5 to $10 that I'm not giving the government.
Exactly.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly.
It's worth your time. Everybody go do it.
At some point, it's the
I don't want
principle
Eric
for
to
that.
have to work all day long, but
Well, and,
go complain.
Like, we beat the government.
Way more than 150 people need to be there. No offense.
and of course, people say, well, would you sell your house for what it's valued at, assessed at? Well, no, I would never sell it at that. But the other side of the coin is I don't want to be paying those taxes.
Correct.
Which nobody does.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay any more taxes than I have to. I see your Donald Trump koozies.
You like those?
Yeah, I do. And my brother-in-law had a pair of socks just like that.
With the hair on
Cole
them
was
too.
just talking about that. Yeah.
And they were all over him for he wasn't paying any income tax. Well, he wasn't doing anything illegal.
Yeah,
he was
it's a
using
loophole.
Yes, and so whether you go to CPA
And in a roundabout way, he's paying a lot of taxes because he's employing a lot of people.
exactly,
Like,
but when I have my taxes done at the end of the year. Each year, I don't go to my CPA and go figure out the most I can pay.
I've always said there's literally a line on every single tax form that you ever fill out. Would you like to add any more taxes? It's
Please
literally
let me pay
on there.
more.
Yeah.
It's you can anybody that's done their own taxes. It's definitely I don't know what line it is, but there's definitely a line where you can add whatever you want to taxes. And I've never met anybody that added
I
it.
was going to say, I'm guessing most people, if they mark that, they don't know they're doing it.
Exactly.
But and in visiting with people, and they get their tax statement, their valuation. If you look at your tax statement, about 20% of what you're paying in property tax goes to the county. And out of that 20% that you're paying that goes to the county, 20% of that actually goes to roads. And when I say roads, I mean the road department.
Yeah.
Equipment. We've got probably 18 or 20 motor graders. Every time one of those leaves the shop, it costs us $120. By the time you fill it with diesel, you put a driver in it.
Yeah.
The other 80% goes to the management of the courthouse and all the other budgets and all the other employees and law enforcement, treasurer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what a lot of people don't realize is that, and we've talked about it on that little pink slip. I mean, 60% of your land taxes are going to education, some sort of education.
Yeah.
At minimum 60. Some districts are higher, and
And whether it be the school, the K through 12, or the college, or ESU, et cetera, et cetera. But I think all of those taxing entities, I think that pink card has been beneficial because we sent none out in Madison County this year.
Oh, it didn't?
There was not a taxing entity that exceeded the requirement to be on the pink card because nobody wants to sit in that room out at the college and have 100 people mad at you.
Right.
In person, if there's 100 there that are mad, there's several hundred that didn't show up.
Right.
There's a lot of people that ain't worth my time.
Yeah.
I'm the $5 guy. It's worth my time.
Yeah. I had a grandfather that
For you, it's principle.
It's a principle thing for me. It's
not the
I'm
$5.
Taxation is theft, and I'll always believe that. So.
I had a grandfather that he wasn't cheap, he was frugal. And he lived comfortably. He lived in Chicago, and he made a gal count the register out at the grocery store one day because she shorted him. And she didn't think she did, and he did, and the manager came over, and he made him count the drawer out. And it didn't balance, and she had shorted him like 48 cents.
Yeah.
My grandmother was so mad.
I could see that.
Hey, but back then, 48 cents was a lot of money.
Well, she was ready to kill him.
It's a principle. It's
It
the
is.
principle.
It's a principle.
It is. It's
thing.
my money, so I want it.
Right. Exactly.
And
I'd have probably given you the 48 cents just to give it to you.
Well,
but
if
when
I'd
you
have been,
take it from
if
me,
I'd have been in line behind him, I'd have said, "Here's $1. Get out of my way. I want my 3 items or whatever." So
That's funny.
But so on your valuation and your property tax, like you said, so much of it goes to education. In the city, I think 18% goes to the city, 20% to the county. And then that county 20% is divided so many ways. Our courthouse, you drive around the country and oh, our courthouse is pretty new. Well, it's 50 years old.
I say,
Right.
It's not really that new.
No,
it's not that new at all.
But some of the
They
counties,
think it's new because it doesn't look like everybody else's county
well,
courthouse.
some of the county courthouses are still the big old 3-story,
Yeah.
110-year-old with the jail on the second floor or third floor, you know. But everything is aging in our courthouse. We just had to put a new HVAC system in, and that was over. Well, we had one company bid, and it was over $1 million. It's just
Wow.
It's just crazy, that kind of. And then
Do you have a hard time getting other companies to bid? Do you put it out to
we
on
put it
stuff
out
like that?
Yeah,
and then people
we
just
not
didn't-
only advertise, but we email companies, and it's just getting harder and harder to get people to bid.
Yeah.
Whether it be a remodel job for several $100,000, which I would think would be a pretty decent job, and some maybe don't have the capacity to do a $1 million job. I'm not sure. You know.
Some of it, I think, is they would rather turn and burn smaller jobs and do more than to take on a big.
Well, because then you could have something like the hurricane or something pops up, and then your input costs go way above where you were. You know, your 2x4s, your OSB stuff like that.
Sure.
Just go crazy on you.
Yeah,
And you could get head over heels there pretty quick.
And the HVAC project has been a long project just because of getting supplies, getting,
Yeah.
you know, we did it in phases just because we didn't have everything.
Right.
And then luckily our maintenance person this winter in January, when it got 20 below zero, happened to stop down at the courthouse on a Sunday, and the boiler had gone out.
Oh.
It would have been chilly Monday morning.
Yeah.
Well, it was 42 degrees in the courthouse. We'd have been replacing a lot of pipes.
Right.
And it wasn't. It was a situation where something that was supposed to kick in as a safety wasn't connected with the new HVAC system. So it would have been covered, but it would have been a mess.
Wow.
You know,
That definitely would have been a mess.
So he was lucky that he just happened to stop. I mean, it was below freezing in the boiler room, and it froze some pipes in there. But the rest of the courthouse was 42 degrees, and wouldn't have taken a whole lot longer.
No,
that you'd
right.
had
Not at 20 below.
you'd have had problems in the bathrooms and
Right.
ceilings and everything else. So,
That's crazy.
and then of course another tremendous expense was we had to put a new phone system in,
Yeah, that's not cheap either.
and the wiring had to all be redone just for the fact that it wouldn't sustain the system. And a company that bids on it, their employees have to go through a background check before they can work in the courthouse, and a lot of that work is done in the evenings and weekends,
When nobody's there.
so we can still operate the courthouse. Now, we did close for 2 weeks a year ago and moved everything to the fairgrounds because we couldn't get it done during business and still conduct business. So
How difficult was that? Moving everything out to the fairgrounds and
it worked much smoother than we thought it would, honestly.
that's good. That's good. Seems like a big headache.
It was more of a hassle for the employees than the public.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, was it easier for the public because they didn't know where you were and they just decided, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to the courthouse today.
Well, that could be. They maybe pulled in and went, well, I don't
guess
know
I
where
don't have
they're
to
at.
be here today. They're gone.
Which we get a little bit on holidays, you know. Not everybody's in tune to Juneteenth, which is June 19th, and the courthouse is closed. And of course, it's not a Monday; it's whatever day
whatever
day
that day
is.
is,
And so inevitably, I'll run into somebody. Yeah, I went down to license my car, and the damn courthouse was closed. And I go, well, and you're not getting mail either. You know, so yeah, it's we try and make it as minimal a issue with the public as possible. And I'll give you an example. Just 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago, we had a water line break for the sprinkler system in the jail. Well, when they had run the water line, they had one main coming into the courthouse. So we had to shut the water off to the courthouse. We had to do it during regular hours, so we actually had to bring in porta potties for
the
the
day.
employees and the public. If somebody needed to use the restroom, you have to have facilities.
Yep.
So
Wow. Is that going to get changed now? Or the water line's going to
Yes,
change? Or
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Just wondering.
we rectified that. So
Good. That's good. Kind of moving. That was a nice little tangent we went on there. That was good. Like that. How do you help support economic development in Madison County area? Is that something that you guys are responsible for?
Well, we contribute to the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development, which is run through the city. We contribute to that budget, and we realize that they give us updates, quarterly update, and we realize that there is so much that goes on with that economic development that the public never hears about. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it can't be made public for the fact that whatever that business may be that's looking at coming, they don't want anybody to know about it till they've made that decision.
Right.
Well, it's kind of hard to deal with heat. You don't want the heat. You don't want the bad pub. You don't want, because you don't want to scare somebody away on something like that.
Sure. So we all believe that economic development is very important. Not only does it bring jobs, which in turn brings people, which buy houses, which buy groceries, which pay taxes, and those dollars get spent over and over and over. We had several complaints, or I had several complaints when the crush plant came in. And there's a housing development out there and stuff. And those people, we didn't know anything about it till it was a done deal. Well, first of all, the county had nothing to do with it because it was within the city's 2-mile jurisdiction. But the gentleman that built that did all the background legwork himself prior to ever coming to the city of Norfolk.
Okay.
So he had negotiated purchasing that land. He had contacted the railroad. He had arranged to have the railroad put an additional spur in. If you notice, he's got 5 sets of tracks coming into that place. So that's a tremendous amount of rail cars.
Right.
But he had all this done. He didn't want to get into a bidding war on the land either, which he did make the landowner pretty wealthy, I believe. But so that was all done before he ever went to the city of Norfolk and said, I'm going to build this $365 million plant. I'd like you to rezone it from ag to industrial or whatever it was. Yep. And I may be shorting the story a little bit, but that man, he did a tremendous amount of, and how he chose Norfolk, there had to be something. So that may be a indication where economic development worked with him that you never know about.
Right.
And I know they work on projects that never come to fruition. I know years ago it was announced that a commercial kitchen manufacturing equipment was going into the old packing plant.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that was announced, and they were going to make stainless steel commercial kitchen equipment. And whatever happened, they
Just fell through.
Yeah. Just like the 2 pipe companies that were supposed to go out north of town. And, But economic development promotes Norfolk and Madison County. And obviously, Norfolk's more of a draw than the rest of the county just because it has more things to offer. But we try not to short any of the county because it ultimately benefits. I mean, I'd love to see a small manufacturing plant go into Battle Creek or Meadow Grove or whatever if they so wanted it. You know?
Which is kind of where you're at on the county side. You're looking more. You deal with more towns. Like you have more towns to deal with in your county, in your jurisdiction than just Norfolk. Whereas the city of Norfolk wants the Norfolk to grow and
but they partner with Madison County because they realize anything they're going to do will benefit.
It's going to
Madison
benefit
County.
everybody.
And if we get a tax, increase in taxes paid that we can decrease our request, it benefits every individual, whether you're renting or not, because ultimately, if you're not a homeowner, those property taxes are reflected in your rent. I mean, it's no different.
That's what a lot of people don't understand.
Right.
Yeah, it's no different than going to buy a hamburger if the guy's got to pay $15 an hour instead of $10 an hour to his employees, he's not going to eat that.
Yep.
No
Right.
pun intended.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
He's going to pass that on to the consumer.
Correct.
Yep.
Which people don't. Oh, they won't do that. Well, yes, they will.
I mean,
Yeah.
it
They
literally
still got to make money.
McDonald's literally called everybody's bluff. So
Yeah.
you want to make us $15 an hour, or we'll go $15 an hour, and you're using a kiosk. Like,
Exactly.
and more power to them, and that's what it is. I personally like it better, anyways, because I don't have to deal with somebody that doesn't understand what I'm talking about. But
Sure.
but yeah, people don't see that happening, and
And
it
in,
definitely
in
happens.
cities, they've closed restaurants because
Yes. Can't afford to keep them open.
can't afford to pay their employees, or the customers aren't going to pay $18 for a hamburger and fries and a Coke.
Right.
Or Pepsi.
Yeah. 100%.
Or RC.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
We'll touch on everybody.
How do you plan, and you can answer this however you want, how do you plan to help support local farmers and agriculture businesses in Madison County?
Well,
Or that you already have, I guess.
Sure. I want to continue to help them, just try and reduce the demand for property tax, because I realize that, if you've got several quarters, that's pretty good tax liability. And not only work through the county, but in my discussions with school board members and stuff, I say, you need to come and listen to our protests sometime, because
You got to learn how to stop spending money. Like, somebody's got to stop spending money. Like,
Yes.
it's not just
we
can't
can't
just make taxes less. You just
and we
have to
can't
stop spending money.
shift the tax either. And I'm all for reducing property taxes, but I'm not for shifting taxes either. If we increase our sales taxes, not only the percentage, but what we are taxing, that punishes the lower income more than the high income, because it's a bigger percentage of their income that they're spending on sales taxes.
That's where I disagree with you, but
Oh, okay. But
I think the fairest way to tax is everybody has to start paying taxes, because that lower income's already not a net tax giver anyways. They're a net tax taker. So if they're not giving some of that tax back, then that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a never-ending cycle. It's going to keep going, keep going, keep going. If they start realizing, hey, I'm a net taker of taxes, I'm going to give taxes, taxes are high, then we start working harder, I just think that shift is a little bit better for everybody.
Yeah, and that's a discussion for another time. But
But that's where that's the only way I disagree on that a little bit.
sure.
But
Well, and I'll give you an example. I guess the sin tax, whether it be alcohol or tobacco or whatever. I was a cigarette smoker for 35 years. I quit 12 years ago. I'm glad I did. But when I smoked, it didn't matter what they were going to make the price of cigarettes. I was going to buy them.
yeah.
And
Which I don't agree with that. That's where I get a little bit different, because I, again, think that's a little unfair tax.
Well, and if you look at who smokes today, and by studies, it's the lower socioeconomic individuals that disproportionately use tobacco or whatever, and not hammering on tobacco, but that's a greater portion of their income, and it's not making them quit.
Correct.
Is the problem. I always said I was going to quit when cigarettes got to $1 a pack.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
When was that? I mean, I don't even smoke,
lot
and I don't
older.
think I was
When
alive.
I smoked cigarettes, they could have made. I think I had to buy a pack out in Vegas, and I think it was like a $15 pack of cigarettes.
I was going to say, I mean, I've never smoked, and I don't think I know of such thing as less than $1 pack of cigarettes in my lifetime.
Yeah. Well, it was a long time ago, and
I quit when they got up to $9.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was spending roughly $250 a month on cigarettes.
Yes, it was a lot.
Basically to
remember.
kill myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
What has been the most difficult time you've had making a decision as a county commissioner? A certain decision you had to make, or what was the most difficult time you've had so far?
well, that's we had a lot of discussion here recently on our zoning regarding wind towers. whether it was controversial or not, I don't know. Madison County had zoning regulations, and people weren't happy with them. Some were, some weren't. And it got pretty contentious, and there were a lot of people that didn't want them changed, that were afraid to speak up just because of the demeanor of those opposed to it. And there were so many falsehoods out there. And at some point, more than likely, wind towers will come to Madison County. I'm not going to guarantee you that. We haven't had an application for one. But the state of Nebraska says they're legal and they're approved land use. And there are laws on the books that you can't adversely zone. And what adversely zone means is you can't make zoning regulations to exclude a business that is approved. And I think that's kind of what Knox County is finding out right now. How that legal case goes, who knows? But it could be extremely expensive for Knox County, and I wasn't willing to put Madison County at that risk.
Why couldn't it have been a situation where you wait until that case is resolved?
Well, it could take years.
Which it could go the way it should go. I mean, it could go the way of Knox County, which is in their benefit, and then you possibly went and they lose Knox. They say the wind farms lose Knox County, and then they just, all right, we're good there because we scared another county. We're just going to go over to this county. You know what I'm saying? A little bit. Like, was that a thought that maybe was going through, or like?
Well, it was suggested. Why don't we wait and see what happens with Knox County? And basically, the comment was that could take a month, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, who knows? And the other side of the coin is we had legal advice that said right now we're in violation and we could be sued at any point. And do you want to risk being sued for millions of dollars? Even if you would win, it's still going to cost you a tremendous amount of money because you're going to have to fight it. You know, there's one county in southeastern Nebraska that got sued and fought it and eventually just quit because it was costing them $120,000 a day in damages.
Well, it's because they got government money that just keeps giving them money. I mean, they have unlimited money for lawsuits and stuff. Yeah. I think it's a shit company, and I'm way against windmills. I don't like windmills the way they are.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't want to look at them, and of course there's a lot of
run shady business practices.
Yeah, I don't know that because I'm not involved in their business, and there's tremendous amount of businesses that are subsidized every day that people deal with.
So I don't understand. Was it the zoning when was the zoning made?
In 2018.
Okay.
And they took 2 years to do it.
Yeah.
And they hired a consultant, so it wasn't done overnight. It wasn't done in secret. There were 14 different articles in the Norfolk paper. People say I don't get the paper. Well,
and you've changed it, or you were trying to change it? So you changed it from what the 2018 zoning was?
We just left it the way it was.
Oh, okay. So people were trying to get it changed.
Correct.
Farther.
Yes. And the concern...
So you guys didn't do anything?
No.
Okay.
And
I thought maybe it was the other way. You guys
No. And the concern was these wind companies, love them, hate them, whatever, they've contacted and they've signed leases with 240 some landowners based on those regulations. So if you change those regulations, those 240 some leases can't take place, which we could be liable for the value of those leases. Not only the money that was paid up front, but
the county could be?
Correct. But
interesting.
But not only the money that was paid up front, also the money that would be generated over the time of the lease, which I don't know if they're 10-year, 20-year, you know. I have not looked at one myself because I don't have any property that would,
right.
you know.
And I was kind of confused how this whole thing was kind of going. So what exactly were they looking to change? So you guys left it as the 2018 regulations, right?
Basically was the setback distance from a wind tower, to a non-participating landowner.
Okay.
They wanted it changed, which
farther.
Correct.
Okay.
Which in effect would make the whole project null and void, which in turn they've already invested, X amount of dollars. I can tell you what they've already invested in Knox County because I've seen it. They've invested $17 million. But it's not just the wind companies that are suing Knox County. It's the landowners that aren't going to get any income. And the problem is they've already got them.
Well, they already gave them a taste of that little drug,
Well, everything we do is for money.
I know.
Whether you raise cattle, you raise them for money.
What's your thoughts on what's going to happen? Let's say the lease is 10 years down the road, and that wind company's no longer around. Those wind turbines are still up. No company purchases them. Who's responsible for the decommission? The landowner?
Well, ultimately, but
supposedly there's trust that these companies are making when they sign these leases.
Well, they're required. And if Madison County ever got to that point, we would require that they bond for those to be decommissioned.
Okay.
So
that was always my biggest concern. Well,
and it would have to be reevaluated every 3 to 5 years because the price is going to change.
Yeah.
They're not buried when they're taken down. I mean, the cement stays in the ground, obviously. They dig it down, bust it out to whatever regulations you have. But the blades themselves are ground up and put into concrete and asphalt, so they're not. The blades are fiberglass and balsa wood. There's not much to them, honestly. The towers themselves, I assume, are steel, so there's obviously a salvageable item there. So yeah, there's lots of pros and cons. I mean, and a lot of it is they don't like the government subsidies that create these.
Right. Has that been your biggest pushback item that you've had?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
So it's a little tender since it's been recent.
Yeah, but, education is so important because, like I said, there were so many falsehoods out there that got people really worked up and really concerned. And I had people dead serious that they contain chips that are made in China, and the Chinese can turn those turbines on and off at will.
So I mean, that's that's a little crazy.
So, but
it's just about them not ever making enough energy to justify their existence.
But that individual believes that,
Yeah.
so you've got to be conscientious of that concern.
That's frustrating that these things can get derailed by that type of
mindset, or
to where you can't have
the real argument is that they're subsidized. They can't sustain themselves. They don't produce enough electricity to outlive their what it costs to make them and maintain them and stuff like that. So, why can't we just have that argument and just get down to the numbers and let's not talk about the health. Let's not talk about the Chinese chips and stuff like that.
So there's a lot of noise complaints too. Are they?
They're fucking loud.
Are they?
They are loud. I mean, I've been around them.
I've never been
on
up close to
farms
them,
and stuff like that. They are loud.
The new ones are much quieter. I went over to Neely and stood 50 feet from one, and you can hear it. Whoof, whoof. But it's not a grinding. There is a noise.
It's not a grinding. It's just a wind noise.
Yeah,
it is a wind noise.
And there is a noise when they start up and stop because there is a generator
break them and
in
stuff.
there.
Right.
And they do adjust pitch into the wind. I mean, so, but it is a wind noise.
Gotcha. Well,
So
thanks for talking about that part.
you bet.
with
You
us.
bet.
Is there anything else you had on that?
No.
Okay. We're kind of getting close to the end, but I got a few more questions for you. transparency, and you've kind of touched on some of this stuff already, but just maybe kind of give maybe a shorter answer, or however you want to do it. Transparency and accountability are very important. What steps would you take to make sure the public continues to be informed?
You know, and of course, those two terms are.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know,
It's 2024. Get used to them.
Yeah.
I think we're as transparent as we can be. Our meetings are open. Our meetings are publicized. We're lucky that the news covers our meetings. And a lot of times we don't have a tremendous amount going on at our meetings, which has been nice. The last couple of meetings, we've had one or two items, you know, and we get through it, but the news is still there. We've had some controversial issues where we still don't get anybody at our meetings, you know, but it is covered well, and usually it's on the radio also. So those that don't get the paper, and I tell people, you know, you don't necessarily have to subscribe to the daily news, but if you click on it, you can at least read the headline, and then if it piques your interest, you can
Reach out or go to the website or
whatever. Or go to the
Are the minutes on the website here?
Yes, yeah.
So you
Or
can
go
get
to the library. I mean,
you know,
they still get the paper.
Yeah. We've talked a lot with this whole. We did this Meet the Candidate series, and that was kind of an overreaching concept. Is everybody, especially this election cycle, but there's not enough transparency. Everybody's trying to hide anything. Well, I mean, all the minutes are there. Everybody's numbers are online on the websites, their emails, their phone numbers, and everybody has said, well, come and reach out to you.
Yeah.
They have offices, you know, a lot of them are like, you can go to every city council meeting, every county commissioner meeting. Like it's public. It's a public notice meeting. We have to know where it is.
So when I
It's
say
there.
I don't feel we can be any more transparent, we don't have meetings other than our commissioner meetings,
right?
Because we can't.
Yeah.
I mean, we abide by the Open Meetings Act,
Right.
So, like I said, our meetings are publicized, when they're going to be, what happens in our meetings, the agenda. If people won't take the initiative to find out about them,
You can't bitch if you're not going to do something about it.
we can't hold your hand.
Yeah.
So if you go to MadisonCountyNE.gov, you can get to the Board of Commissioners site, which gives you each district with their name and their number, and it gives you all the meeting times and things like that. And then if you go to the Clerks tab, is where you can get the agenda, the proceedings, and all that. And they're all there. I think they're there the day after you guys do them.
Normally, they're posted pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
So
and you know, I had somebody call me and go, oh, there's somebody out there sharing your home address with everybody, and they're telling them to
turns out it's public knowledge.
Google me. Google me. Well, and my comment was, if you were old enough to know what a phone book was,
It used to be in the phone book,
it used
too.
to be in the phone book.
You could have an unlisted number in the phone book, but that's like you had to go out of your way to do that.
You can give me any name if they own a
your
piece of property,
address-
we can find it.
Yes, or you can go on the website and go on GIS Maps.
That's what I mean.
And click on, and it'll tell you not only what my home address is, what I'm paying in property taxes.
Correct.
Because I've had people show up at our protest hearings and go, well, your last 7 years didn't go up as much as mine. And my response was, well, let's throw the first 5 out because I wasn't a commissioner. So those I wasn't getting any benefit that you feel I am. And
I just got lucky.
and I'm
and then you
not
can say,
getting any
What can you
benefit.
say? I'm blessed.
And it just so happened to be, and I got no secrets. I live across the street from the rescue mission.
Yeah.
The county extension office has a garden, and a year ago they raised so many cucumbers they didn't know what to do with them. Well, they were giving them to the mission. The mission couldn't use them all, so they were giving some to us. I said, so that tells you how bad being a county commissioner is when the rescue mission is giving me food. So
There you go.
but they
I was
don't want
way
them to go
down
to
the
waste.
line.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
back on transparency, I feel we do a tremendous job of, getting our information out there.
I would agree.
And like I said, I'm glad we are covered by the news, because they can do us a lot of good, and just in information to the public.
Yeah.
Because if they know what's going on, it makes their life easier and ours.
Yeah.
I will say, usually when there's a big subject going on involving the county, I usually hear about it before I ever hear about any kind of big subject that's going to happen with the city council or something like that. So I would say,
And accountability, I guess. I think that was the other part of your question.
Transparency and accountability. Those two kind of, you're going to hear that a lot.
Accountability is, in my opinion, is, every vote we take is public, and I feel it should be, because whether I vote yes or no for whatever it is, I'm willing to stand behind it.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. So you stand behind what you talk about.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oh, Donald Trump is texting.
You're getting those two? God, I thought I was the only one. God. I thought we were hanging out tonight, me and Don.
Maybe if I'd give them more money, they'd quit text, or they'd text me more. I don't know which.
So I got one more question about your job as commissioner, and then we've got some ending questions that we ask everybody about.
Okay.
The last one I got for you, are there any upcoming projects or initiatives that people should be on the lookout for?
Not off the top of my head. We're kind of continually discussing equipment, but we've kind of got a fixed dollar amount that we feel we can spend each year. And I've got a piece of equipment that, needs replaced. It's becoming, I wouldn't say a safety issue, but it's becoming
Close. Problematic.
Yeah. We've got one or two people that can run it. It's a big excavator, and it's settling, and you don't want anybody around it. And it's an expensive piece of equipment well, they all are. I mean, it's not as expensive as a motor grader, but those type of things. Winter, hopefully.
At this time last year, we had snow on the ground.
We did.
I know it. It's crazy. And it was 80 degrees today or whatever. It's crazy. But
so nothing like the wind turbines coming up
soon. No. We've got a couple public hearings coming up. One is for an event center over south of Battle Creek, which nobody opposed at the planning and zoning. And a lot of times, from time to time, we have public hearings for lot splits in the country where somebody wants to build a house, on less than 40 acres or whatever, which you're seeing more and more.
Yeah.
And you see landowners that are willing to sell a corner, which I have more of that probably in my district. People that used to live in Norfolk now have moved out to the country, want everything that comes with the country, the quiet.
They don't want the country, though.
Yeah.
They want the quiet, starry nights.
That's us farm people. I can't stand those people at times.
Exactly.
At times, they're very, if they at least came from a country style family
background, yes,
country background, you understand it.
But I get complaints
all the
about
time. Flies, dust, wind.
Yeah, and
You get complaints about that?
Yeah, that comes with living in the country.
Well, there's cows over there.
My neighbor feeds cows, and
Something stinks. Like what?
You know what my response is to that? Close your windows.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I'm not being unsympathetic, but
oh my gosh.
But there's
I don't
more
think
to
there's
living
any
in
need to be sympathetic for that. I don't.
There's more to living in the country than the quiet, starry nights. Well, my road's dusty.
I've got wildlife showing up on my property.
My car's never clean.
Could you move that deer?
I mean, the washboards are bullshit. I mean, they're very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
But I've dealt with that my entire life.
Yeah.
And like I tell, where your folks live. Do you live at home?
I do not. I live in Battle Creek.
Well, my comment.
I go out to the farm all the time.
My comment would be, you have a half mile of gravel to the hard surface. If you drive at 20 miles an hour instead of 40, it's going to take you an extra 7 seconds.
No, got it. It's only it's actually only a quarter mile to our driveway.
40's giving them a good minimum there. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I need to get to 60 as fast as I can get to 60.
And then 0.
Yeah.
So
that's where all that dust comes from, right there.
And as equipment's gotten bigger, it's been much harder on our hard surface roads because they weren't built. When they were built 50 years ago, they weren't built for the grain wagons we got today.
Big grain wagons, big combine, everything's bigger.
and we realize that, but it's taking, so not only do we hard surface them, a lot of them we got to grind them clear down to and build a base.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you want to say to all the people that complain about those types of equipment being on like highways and things? I see a lot of complaints on like dumb Facebook.
Well, and of course the highway we have no control over, but
Right.
my comment is be alert, be off your phone. You live in ag country, you're going to have grain wagons, you're going to have
Right.
tractors, you're going to have combines. Be patient.
Right.
If
They're
it's-
just as frustrated. I've been in those
100%.
tractors.
Absolutely.
My head is on a swivel if I'm in a tractor on some road that's going fast.
And 90% of them, 99% of them want to be off as far out of your way as they can be. But when there's a guardrail,
Yeah, they
or
can
a
only go
bridge,
so far.
They've got to come back over. And there was a time I was impatient with them too. But I realize you got to go from field to field, or
Right.
It would be nice actually it wouldn't be nice because some of those people would cause more accidents. But if they were just in one of those machines or something
and saw what it was
and
like.
saw what it's like and how unnerving it is and how like you'll sit and you'll wait and then eventually you just got to go and hope that people are paying attention and
Yeah.
because they're dealing with a much higher piece of equipment than your car.
Oh, 100%.
I promise you that.
Oh, absolutely.
And usually
they don't want to fuck that up.
Usually they're not going very far.
No.
Like,
And typically, if you run into them, you're going to come out on the short end of the
oh,
stick.
100%.
you know.
100%.
But yeah, it's part of living in this part of the country.
Yep. I just wanted your thoughts on that because I saw a recent thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, I know you guys didn't have control over it, but
Yeah. Well, and even on our county roads and hard surface roads, I mean, this time of year, and of course, most of the crops are picked, which is, great for this time of year. But when it's that bone dry, you don't have to wait for anything.
No rain days.
yeah.
But I
yeah.
tell people when the corn's 8 feet tall, slow down at the intersections.
Right.
Take time to look, not only for equipment, but
Even
other
just
vehicles.
driving vehicles back
Yeah.
and forth.
Other vehicles, you know.
Because there ain't stop signs everywhere.
No, and there can't be.
Yeah.
And honestly, if we put
Stop
too
signs
many,
everywhere would piss me off.
Yeah.
well, and they're not honored.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Unfortunately,
You got to be a defensive driver sometimes. You're coming up to an intersection, you can't see. You got to.
I'm offensive only.
I know you are. We talk about that all the time.
Well, and I
All the
tell
time.
I
I'm
tell
full on the
people
defensive.
that,
He's on the offensive.
that red octagon isn't a suggestion.
Right. Right.
Well, if it's got a white line around it, it's a fake stop sign, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to tell you a story, and my wife's going to roll her eyes. So, guy rolls through the stop sign. Policeman pulls him over. He says, "You didn't stop at that stop sign." He says, "Well, I slowed down. Same difference." Policeman pulls out his nightstick and just starts beating the crap out of this guy. And he goes, "Do you want me to slow down or stop?"
That's a good one.
I like that one.
That's a good one.
So,
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you answering those questions. We're going to ask you a couple questions here that we've asked everybody that's come on the podcast so far.
okay.
For one more week.
For one more week, we
Everybody
get to
gets
ask these
these
questions, and then we have to
Oh,
we have to do
Because a
something.
week from today,
Yeah. So we-
hopefully we'll be celebrating
Yeah. Right.
whatever you're.
Right. With it, well, I mean, I'm sure you can tell.
Yeah.
No, we're voting for Kamala.
Yeah.
She hasn't been texting me.
No, not me.
I'm not sure she
I'm
knows how.
I mean, if you're going to text me, maybe my vote's still for sale, Kamala.
I'm not sure she knows how. That's good. So with it being an election year, how do you feel about where the state of our country is right now? And do you feel that we are being well represented at the federal and state levels?
No. Especially at the federal level.
Yeah.
I feel at the state level, we're being represented pretty well. I'll be honest, I'm not a tremendous fan of our governor. But we could be worse. Our federal government right now, I think our country's a mess.
I agree with you.
Honestly, and,
I agree with you.
I'm not, I don't think personally, I don't feel we can afford another 4 years of the direction we're going.
I would agree with you.
It's kind of a joke with my friends and family that I go to Walmart every day. Well, I don't go every day, but I get up early, I go get a cup of coffee, and then I walk around the store. And the employees see you tomorrow, But I shop too, and it's like, my God, a can of soup or whatever. It's just every time I look at it, it's crazy.
Going up. Yep.
And we can't continue to do this. And so hopefully things change. And every time I fill my vehicle and every time we fill the diesel tanks for the county, it's like, God dang it.
Right.
I mean, but the other side of the coin is we can't keep those vehicles parked either.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to keep going. I mean, there's certain costs that you just have to eat no matter what you do.
Business has got to keep going as usual everywhere.
Yeah. So I think as a state, we're in much better shape than as a country.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you feel that the two-party system that's in place still works in today's time?
I think it's the best thing we've got. Honestly, if somebody could present something better, I'd like to see what it is. It's worked for 150 years or 200 years. I mean, I know the two-party system didn't exist, I think, when the country started, but sometime maybe around, and my history teacher's probably rolling over, but sometime around Abraham Lincoln, I believe, maybe was the two-party system.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. Does the Whig Party still exist?
not anymore. Well, isn't that what is the Whig Party the independent party nowadays?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I didn't know what the Whig Party even stood for. I mean, at one point I probably knew, but I'd have to go back and look.
And like I said, I ran against a libertarian 4 years ago, and I had to look up what a libertarian was, honestly. And it, best I could find out, it was somebody that had been a Republican, and then they'd been a Democrat, and then they didn't know where to go, so they became a libertarian. But
maybe. Possibly. I would say a libertarian's close to, like, just get the government out of my life.
Yeah.
That's the way I justify most. Yeah. My libertarian views are less government.
Yeah.
Like, to get the government out of my way.
So
we like I like the two-party system, but I feel like it's more of a uniparty right now, where they're kind of just, I'll scratch your back, you
especially
scratch mine.
at the federal level.
At the federal level,
yeah.
And your senators and your congressmen go there, and they just
Well, and it seems they can't get anything accomplished. I mean,
right. They're just there to argue and then do deals behind closed doors.
And too many of them are there to benefit themselves.
Yeah.
line their pockets.
And turns out they've all become great millionaires.
Lots of
since
millionaires.
Well, that's the joke when I got elected, and
Yeah, aren't you a millionaire by now?
I said, I don't understand how politicians are getting rich, because I am not.
You just got to go to the next level.
Yeah, so you got to move up.
So excuse me.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, you got to move up a level, and you'll be fine.
You'll get there. Just keep working at it. Just keep working at it.
Well, one of the boards I serve on, I got a, I guess for lack of a better term, like a Yeti cup.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, and so I took a picture and sent it to my son. And I said, "Now I know how politicians get rich." And he said, 2 more, and you're there.
Right.
So then I was at a conference in Kearney, and I won a prize, which was a cup just like this. And so I took a picture and I sent it to my son. I said 2 out of 3. And he's got somewhat of a warped sense of humor like I do. And he said, "Dad, I am so proud of your persistence. You're going to make it."
That's funny.
You'll get there.
Yeah, 1 more. So
Yeah. Just take that one with you.
Look, I got another one. It wasn't even from the government.
What happened to my acres? I mean, geez, we buy John Deere equipment, but we don't buy it from them because they're ag equipment.
Yeah, right. Well, that's all the questions I had today. Unless there's something else you want to kind of address or talk about, or
No, I think we've covered everything pretty
Good.
well. I appreciate you guys inviting me, and you know, I guess I was a little apprehensive when I came. I didn't know what to expect. And,
We try to make it somewhat simple.
yeah, I mean,
we try to get to the issues, but also not make it unbearable for the
you
person
didn't
sitting
throw
there.
too many darts, or
No, we try not to. We try to make it pretty simple.
I won't have to cry myself to sleep.
No.
We'll try harder next time.
And we put you right at the end, so you could already kind of know what was going on with the other places, and you were unopposed, so we kind of like.
Well, you gave me this Tuesday or last Tuesday, and I thought, well, I'll take the 20 whatever, or whatever. It's only a week from election.
Can't hurt you too much.
Yeah. Too late to start a write-in.
Not going to be too many write-ins.
Yeah.
That guy's crazy. That ain't happening now. I'm going to change that vote.
Well, I had a lady that I knew really well 4 years ago said, "You weren't on my ballot, Eric. What's the deal?" She said, "I wrote you in for city council because I couldn't remember what you were running for." I said, "Well, first of all, you're not in my district. And second of all, I wasn't running for city council." But she was going to vote for me no matter what.
There you go.
That is one question. I don't want to get to that real quick that I was going to ask earlier, and we kind of got on another topic. How do they determine what district you're running for? Because aren't you and Troy technically live in the same district?
No. So Madison County is divided into 3 districts. So you can see my district is all the green.
Oh, so you control the roads in a bigger area than what your district is.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That's where I was kind of confused.
I was
too when
like,
you said
So
what it
voting
was.
district and road district are 2 different things.
Gotcha.
My voting district, the voting districts are divided by population.
but where you live and stuff like that.
So every 10 years, we have to realign our voting districts. And basically, each one of those 3 colors has the same population in each one. So that's how they're divided.
That makes sense.
A third of the population votes for myself, a third
Did you
vote.
show that?
Should I put that? Okay.
A third votes for Ron Schmidt, a third votes for Troy Euler. So there is some confusion that some of the people that vote for Troy or vote for Ron, I take care of their roads.
That's kind of where I was confused a little bit. 'cause
So, like where your folks live, Troy Euler would be that voting district, but I take care of those roads.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So I tell Troy, if those people are mad at me, I don't care.
It's your problem.
They don't vote for me.
I'm pretty sure my dad's made that same comment to Troy.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm kidding.
Right.
But I joke with the other 2 that, I don't care if they're mad.
Not my problem. It's your problem.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
Okay, that makes a lot of that clears that up because I was kind of confused and I was trying to get into that and we went on a tangent somewhere. And
sure.
It caught
And
right back
I
up.
do that, explain that fairly regularly because people are confused by it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
Well, that makes a lot of sense now, though. Yeah, you said that.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll probably end it there if that's all right with you.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. Big thanks to my co-host Vance Neidig, producer Cole Peterson. Without them, the show would not be what it is. Huge thank you to Eric Stinson. We really appreciate you making the time to be on the show today.
Well, you kept me up late.
Well, we tried to. We didn't go as long as some of ours go. Sometimes we go 2 hours. So.
Well, that's my wife said. Yeah. I think Shane went.
Or in
an hour
the
and a half, 2
essence
hours.
of his parents, it's
parents
4
went
hours or
3
3.5
It was
hours.
3.
3 hours.
A little over 3.
Yeah. So
Well, there may have been a beverage or 2.
just a couple on our end anyway. So
All right. Well, thank you very much.
thank you. Keep on the
Appreciate
lookout
it.
for more great episodes. We'll see you guys next week.